What is going on, y'all? Thank y'all so much for coming and hanging out with me tonight. This is So I Did a Thing. My name is Chris. My guest tonight is James Laurain, and this has been a show that has been like months in the making. Schedules weren't lining up. Right as we had talked about doing it, I started doing Ending the Stigma, and I've done that for a few months. I'm going to keep going. I need to take this background off. That's driving me nuts while I'm the only one here. I'm going to keep doing that, but I was like, man, I really want to have James on and talk about the book. So doing a special edition of So I Did a Thing. Let's say hi to some people real quick. Darren Rowley, who illustrated the book, is here in the house. Thanks for dropping in. Kenny D is here. How are you, sir? Lisa Marie Hughes, one of my biggest supporters, always gives me a shout out every Monday. Andrew Bennett, Tanya Bugby, Captain America is here. I don't know who LinkedIn user is because you're on James's side and I can't see his LinkedIn from over here because I don't have it pulled up. Anyway, hi LinkedIn user. Chastity Alexander, Brian Sagray. What's going on, man? Val is here. Cool. All right. So, like I said, my guest tonight used to, like, that was like the highlight of my morning. I drink my coffee and read some weird, gross, random scientific facts that James would write. And he goes by Jim, but I always call him James because that's what's on his profile. And he moved from that to a children's book. So we're going to talk about that tonight. I'm super excited about it. Y'all help me welcome James Laurain.
Hey,
what's going on?
I'm always like waiting for the applause, but there's no applause in LinkedIn Live. They need to add like a clap track.
They do. There's another software that I use sometimes. I hadn't checked it in a while. I don't use it much because their API, LinkedIn's API and Wave's API don't talk to each other, so the comments don't populate in there. But they have laugh tracks and stuff built in that you can do.
I need a laugh track like in life because I've tried to explain to my wife the difference between a good dad joke and a bad dad joke, and she thinks they're the same thing. So
we need to get Britt Crawford's take on that.
Oh my gosh, there's no such thing as a bad dad. No, there are. No. There really are, which is actually kind of amazing in and of itself that you kind of have.
But that's what makes them so good.
That is.
The worse they are, the better they are.
I know. Hey, I wanted to thank you really quick and thank everybody else. So part of this will come up later, but I did like virtually no PR for the book, maybe almost too little PR, which is so like this is my Oprah show right now. Like, this is the only like event I've done about the book. But it was awesome because we did talk about this a while ago, and it was right when you were like, "Oh, I'm not going to do that anymore," and I was so sad. I was like, "This is the one thing I wanted to be on." So I'm so glad that you like woke it up one more time for me.
Yeah, no problem. I would have done it if I hadn't already started booking guests for the other show. So like there was no way to move anybody around, and I booked all the way out to now. And I was like, you know what? I need to get him on here because I want to know about the book too. Mainly why it took you so long to finish it, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we can get there. We can get there. What do you got up first? What are your thoughts?
Man, so just like tell us what was the inspiration behind it? Like what made you think, I want to write a children's book?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if everybody knows this, but you're a father to like 5 kids.
Yep.
Yeah. So
I mean, that's probably 5 for now. Yeah. We'll see what happens. I'm not saying anything's in the works. I'm just saying.
You never know. These things happen.
Yeah. So I mean, I spend a lot of time. Our kids are home. We homeschool. I'm home. I work from home. My wife's is home. We're all home. So we're all home all the time. So I spend a lot of time thinking about my kids, which is probably a good thing. So all of my kids are wonderful, and all of my kids have their own special things that make them special and unique and awesome. This book, I was thinking about my eldest daughter. My eldest daughter is like every parent's dream child. She is like amazing. She'll wake up, she'll get the baby out of the crib, she'll change the baby, she'll get the 3-year-old, she'll help him go to the bathroom. She'll be like, Dad, do you want eggs? And she'll like make me eggs and bring them to the table. And like, she breaks up the fights. She's like, she's wonderful. We constantly work on like not relying on her too much, because it's like, she's got to be a kid, but she's just fantastic. And if you ask my son to hold the baby, he holds like the baby by the head. You're like, no, but like little girls just have this gift. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like they can just,
for sure.
So I noticed something, which is when she was around other kids, like some of those qualities would disappear. So like she'd be around some kids who were not, some of the neighborhood kids who were a little more rough, and all of a sudden she'd become a little more rough. She'd become a little more rude to her siblings. She'd become a little less helpful, a little less friendly. And I think it's like a common parental issue. Your kid gets out in the world, and the world has its influence on your kid, and then it's heartbreaking. So I was trying to think, as all parents do, of like ways that you can tell your kid that they're amazing. And so I think part of the problem though is when you do that, like it's just your dad, like of course your dad thinks you're great, of course your mom thinks you're great because they're your dad or mom, so it's always like you try to think of different ways to like encourage your kids or support your kids or something like that. So that was the first motivation in the book, and we can get there. I can go into that a little bit. The second one was actually really cool. This part doesn't sound cool, but my wife's uncle was diagnosed with cancer, and they did a bunch of surgeries and they gave him 6 months to live. He was a mandolin player, and so his wife said, go make a CD. Go take your songs, put all the songs you've written down your whole life, and make a CD. So he actually had me play bass guitar. So I didn't play banjo yet. So I played bass guitar on his CD with him. And we still listen to that CD.
I play bass.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. What do you got?
Man, I don't even know. It's like a Godin. It's not a real great one. It's like a $400 job. But yeah,
that's fine.
Sounds good.
I made a fretless out of a $400 bass before, but I have a Warwick XP 120 or XP. I forget what it is now. It's a Thumb 5. Either way.
Nice.
So I thought, how cool that her uncle did pass away. But how cool that my kids know his voice because he has his CD, and we play his CD and you can hear his voice echo through the halls. So I'm like, this is the second thing. So step one is like, I want to encourage my daughter, and I want to show her that I love her and show her, that she's incredibly unique, wonderful person, and she shouldn't let the influences of the world have their way on her. Right. Amen. Secondly, we're all not here forever. I'm going to be gone someday, and it would be cool to have something as a legacy to pass down, whatever that is, right? So all of that together was kind of the inspiration behind why I wrote the actual book. So the process, though, was really funny. It like came to me in the shower of all places, because I can get into the science behind it, but it happens. Alpha waves, nice warm water, you're distracted. But I pretty much wrote the book like in the shower, and like ran out of the shower, threw a towel on, and like sat at my laptop and just wrote it in like 15 minutes. I had to tweak a little bit at the end.
Wow. Really?
Other than that, like boom, written. And then I discovered what a process it is to actually launch a book. So writing it was like nothing. That was the easy part. But like launching it was not the easy part. That was the pain. So, but here's where I plug, and I will plug a million times. Darren Rowley was not just an illustrator. She was an illustrator plus a cheerleader plus a therapist plus emotional support plus a team coach plus everything, because it would have never got off the ground if not for Darren, like period, at all, ever. I told her it'd be a Google Doc. It'd be a Google document with some paragraphs in it if it wasn't for Darren. So
how did you get hooked up with her as far as getting her to illustrate your book?
Oh, I feel bad because it's probably somebody on here maybe even introduced me. Was it Val? I can't remember, but it was somebody. I made a post like, hey, I'm looking for an illustrator. And I think at the time I had a different idea that I didn't end up publishing because it was a little too short. But somebody reached out and said, talk to Darren. And I was like, okay. And here's the thing about portfolios. Like Darren's portfolio was more corporate at the time because she has another kid's book she's working on, or at least one, I think multiple. But at the time there wasn't a lot of children's book stuff. So like, I remember I kind of took a risk. Like it was obviously the best thing that I could have possibly done. But it was like, because the portfolio didn't match. And this is like always the problem with freelancers. Like you never have the perfect thing in your portfolio, like exactly what somebody's looking for, because you haven't done it yet. You know?
Right.
So, Anyway, but she did a wonderful. I have my copy here. I have the copy number 1 that I signed. The first one that came out, and like her work is incredible. So if you haven't seen it before, I told my wife I want to take like every page out of this book and like frame each individual page and like put it around the house because it's just beautiful.
Oh my God.
It doesn't do it justice unless you actually.
Yeah.
I have a PDF and all that stuff, but it doesn't do it justice unless you're holding it.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, man. Like the inspiration behind it, I did not expect it to be. I don't know why I didn't expect it to be so deep, but it makes all the sense in the world. Like a real life experience with one of your kids got you to thinking, and you also wanted to leave a legacy.
Yeah,
so that's pretty cool.
So many kids books. I have so many kids books, and they're all. I shouldn't say all. So many of them are so dumb. There's like no meaning, or the lesson that they teach is very silly. You know, like it's not very deep at all. And actually, one of the more telling things to me when I went to actually launch this on the site is you have to classify it. So you have to give it 3 labels of like, what is it? Like, what is this, a fantasy book? Is it a, whatever. So I had to go to the juvenile section because it's a kid's book. And then when I picked my 3, I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, it's about peer pressure. It's about bullying. It's about all these like serious things, which I actually did not mean at all for any of it to be like that serious. And it wasn't until I did that I realized like, oh, this is actually some serious stuff. And I see Gerard in here, and Gerard was also a gigantic help when it came to the logistics of, figuring out publishing and how different bookstores work and formatting and how to do. He encouraged me. So I have a business, obviously, but it's called Game Theory Marketing, and that would look really crappy on a book. So we did Sweet Laurel Tree Press, which I think Val named, if I'm not mistaken, and Darren made me a logo for that. But I did a DBA for that, so it like actually looks like it came from a legitimate children's book instead of from me. But yeah, there was a lot of nuance to like actually getting this out the door, and there were so you
self-published it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. There's a website. This is what's amazing. There's a website called ingramspark.com, and making it sound easier than it is, you can upload a book, and they got rid of their upload fees. And so literally you could upload a book, one book, and buy a copy, one book. And it's like, I don't remember how much it was. It might be 20 something bucks, depending on where you live. But like you can go write a book tomorrow, scribble a bunch of pictures, have it in roughly the right formatting, and go get one for 25 bucks, which to me seems incredibly cheap, like for what you get.
That's crazy.
Gerardo needs to define what that means by puffer fishing.
Yeah,
but I'm not saying it'd be a successful book. I'm just saying it'd be a book, but you never know. Things are successful that you never thought would be. So
yeah. So is that how your books? I guess not if it's for Amazon. Are they print to order, or did you have to like pay to have a bunch of them printed and then pray to God that you get enough to get your money back on it?
Yeah. So this is what's actually really cool, and this was probably my biggest mistake. And I didn't see shoot. Why am I blanking on his name? I can see his face. I didn't see Casey Maxwell in here. But he did it very well. And what I should have done, I started out with good momentum. Day 1, day 2, day 3. I don't know if you remember those, but it was like, here's what I did today. Here's what I did today. Here's what I did today. And then I had life happen. There were issues. There were problems. I had water damage in my house that knocked out 4 rooms. And I had like things happened. I switched jobs. I was between jobs, all this stuff. And it threw me off. What Casey did well is he had an email list going with like people who were interested in his progress. And then it was cool because even if he missed a day or two, he could write to the list. Every time he made a post, he could encourage people to check the list. It went really well with his progress. He did a giveaway. He did all this stuff. The thing that I didn't expect with Ingram Spark is I picked a launch date. You have to pick a launch date and you can't change it as far as I know. So Darren and I picked one like 2 months out because we thought, what if we order a copy and it's bad and we have to reprint it? Like, we don't want it to launch in that time in between, because then it's going to be like Elf, if you've seen that movie, and you're going to ship people things with blank pages. So, so we did that. Okay, great. So I thought this gives me time to like build a little list. I got 2 months. I can build a little list. I can do a better launch. I can do all this stuff. Okay, but then somebody who I actually work with sent me a note and said, "Hey, I see your book on this website." And I'm like, "What?" And boom, it was everywhere. It was on, I think, Thrift Books and Greenlight Bookstore right away. It started again on Amazon, but people started placing orders on all those other sites. And I'm like, no, because like you're gonna wait for 2 months. Like it's not. If you put it in there, you get pre-release. You can't get a
Right.
pre-release. You're just on the list. So I Gerard. So I quick launched MabelTheChameleon.com so that people could place orders, and Ingram Spark lets you ship pre-order. So I could order a quantity of one and ship it. Or actually, what was less expensive for me was just to order one through them and have them ship it and put the recipient's address in it. So like if you ordered one, but it's so manual. So if you place one on
Right.
MabelTheChameleon.com, I get an email I get 2 emails. I get a PayPal email and I get a I get a PayPal email and I get active campaign Thrivecart. I did it through Thrivecart, and then I have to look at both of them because like one of them has your name, the other one has your address, and I have to go into Ingram and I have to like type it all in, and then hit go and like pray it sends. Because if you use their media mail, they're like, we don't even guarantee this gets where we promise it will. So like I had a couple that I shipped off to Israel that didn't make it, so I had to go get a second copy and mail it to Israel, which is not cheap. So it's like,
I'm sure
2 of those were like $80 of a loss for me per book. So this wasn't a ploy to make money for sure.
Right.
I think when my accountant sees me, he's going to be like, what the heck did you do?
Why?
Yeah. So anyway, that's how it goes. But you can literally cut one single book to go to a single person. You don't have to. It is print on demand, so you don't have to buy a bunch. I did buy a bunch just so that local people, I could pass them out. I had dreams of doing like a library event or something with my kids and their friends. Maybe I will someday, but I haven't had the time or motivation really to do it. But yeah. So you stopped, Darren.
Yeah, I know.
She did like all of it, I swear. So she even did not just the pictures, but like all the formatting as well. So like all the graphics and formatting, and then I had an editor go through because of course you read your own mistakes like they're perfect, and all that stuff. She did all the changes, all the editing, all the format, all the layout, and first try, good quality. Like came out, all the pages lined up, everything first try, which is awesome.
Very cool. Hey, Randy. I see you, Randy. So is there going to be a sequel?
Oh man.
Like, is there going to be a series? Are you going to go from copywriter to push notification guy to children's book author extraordinaire?
Oh man, I feel like if I did something, it would have to be not another Mabel book, and only because this one's like it's kind of special to me. I have like my kids have Little Blue Truck. Like Little Blue Truck is a pop. I am well versed on children's books. Thank you very much. I know the Kiss Kiss Fish. It's the Pow Pow Fish. Anyway, Little Blue Truck, like the first Little Blue Truck was like a nice classic book, but then you get like Little Blue Truck Christmas, Little Blue Truck Halloween, Little Blue Truck whatever, and because they copy like the same format or same rhyme scheme, or they're trying to make the book kind of the same as the last book, it ends up being just, you can just tell they want to make some more money, so they made a Christmas version, and they're just playing on the name. And because the book was really meaningful for me, I don't just want to do a book number 2. I did start to write one, and it is kind of funny because it was about being happy with what you have, like being satisfied with what you have. Because I have another son who is always wants more, who's like more of the hoarder type. And then it just seems funny to be like, here's one about how my daughter's wonderful, and here's one about how you're a hoarder. So I'm like, I don't. So I haven't finished that one yet, but it's about half done. I don't know if I'll ever launch it. I had a poem that I really liked, and I posted it up here. This is like, I wrote it a long time ago, and I sent it to my wife when she was my girlfriend. It was called The Very First Yawn. And I thought it was cool because, like, if I yawn, like, you're gonna yawn. You know what I mean? Like, yawns are contagious, right? They pass around. So I'm like,
over the phone, on video,
Oh yeah, like it doesn't matter. So I'm like, wouldn't it be a cool concept for like the very first yawn? So I wrote this whole poem about the very first yawn, and it started. There was a mom and a baby, and the baby yawned, and then the mom yawned, and then it's like it spread throughout this town, and then it just went on, and that's the yawn. Every yawn we have is because of this one baby. Like I thought it was so cool, and I've actually posted the poem up on LinkedIn before, but I lost it. So I sent it to my wife when she was my girlfriend, like 15, 16 years ago or something. I lost it. She told me she really wants me to rewrite it. I rewrote it, and she's like, "That's not as good as the original one." And I'm like, "You
Mhm.
don't know that though." Like we don't have the original. So like it will never be as good as the original. But I've had dreams of making that a little more than it is, but it's not as long. Not that it necessarily has to be, but with
Right.
with publishing you want to hit like Gerard will probably yell at me, but it's like multiples of 8, like 8 pages, 16 pages, 32 pages because of the way the press lines up or something. And
Yeah.
I just have a bunch of blank pages at the end.
Okay.
So,
Interesting. You learned all the things. Sam had a question. How
oh,
often does a book look perfect upon first printing?
never ask Casey. If you haven't checked out Casey's book, I owe him one. I want to buy a copy of his book, but me and my computer and my wallet are never in the same place at the same time. He said he put a filter over his, like, he put a filter over the book to like tint it a little bit because he wanted it. And when he got it printed, it came out like brown. So he's like, "Oh crap!" So he had to like quick do a second version, like, and he thought he wasn't going to have a second version in time for launch and all that. So
Mm.
I know if he didn't have like a super primo expert illustrator like I did, and that was
Mhm.
probably all of his problems. So if you just use
It probably
Darren,
was.
then probably every book you ever make will come out perfect first try.
I have no doubts.
Am I doing enough sales for Darren today? That's my goal. I need to do more sales for
Right?
Darren.
Hopefully her DMs will
Seriously
be
though.
flooded after this.
Oh my goodness. I have zero artistic ability whatsoever. So it's
Me too,
actually cool.
man.
Darren played marriage counselor because I like pulled my wife in because she's the artistic one to be like, how do we do this? How do we make this? How do we make this look like decent? And between the two of them, they did a wonderful job. I just wrote the words.
Yeah, I have zero artistic ability. Like I cannot even draw a straight stick figure.
Yeah.
Like it's bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I get that.
I'm with you. My wife says I can draw, but I prove her wrong on a regular basis. So, yeah.
Well,
I
that
think,
is cool, man. I'm loving the story behind this so far. What else you gonna
yeah.
share?
What else
We
am I
kind of got it.
man? Yeah, I don't, like I said, there's no sequel. So I was thinking a couple things. I
Okay.
was on, yeah. So this is where I said Darren would be upset with me. So I need to get an ebook version for multiple reasons.
Mhm.
But one is just because it's cheaper and then more people can have it and you can distribute it that way. And that's nice because the shipping on my own is a pain. Also, I agree with color. The other thing is these pages, I paid for the premium pages and they look nice, but they just don't look as nice as like digital did. Like when it looks on a screen, like it pops. And the hardest thing is the chameleon's green, right? So green was a big part of this. And green looks so much better like on a screen than it
Mhm.
does printed. So it's like so much better, like actually in an ebook format. So I need to get that. And then I could walk through it. I also want to actually have a version. My daughter's 9, so I want to have a version of her reading it like an audiobook or audio with visual
Mm.
with her
Mhm.
reading it because I think that'd be amazing. But there was no
Yes.
I thought like, holding this would be like a happy moment, but it paled in comparison to like my daughter will go read it to my youngest son and my youngest daughter, and it's like just watching them, it's amazing. And when I go, like if I go to a coffee shop to work or something, I throw a copy or two in my bag and I look for like parents with kids and like toss them copies, and like that, like giving it away has been
Yeah.
like the absolute most rewarding thing to me. But yeah, the audiobook I really want to do, and I want to get that, like I said, in a video format too, not animated like
Right.
animated, although somebody could probably tell me how to do that with AI, but something that at least I can walk through with. So
Yeah, that would be cool. Especially if of one of your daughter uh, reading it, like it's her voice. She was the inspiration for the book. The book's about her. Having her read it would be really special, I would think.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say too, Ingram. So I see what Gerard just wrote. I'm gonna have to check out to see if I can just make that page swap to do coded interior pages, because Ingram at the time was like the absolute best. So people mentioned there were I forget what the other ones are now, but there's a lot of other self-publisher print-on-demand books. Ingram has the
Hmm.
best distribution, and they said if you're doing a soft cover, like you can be a little more lax on who you use. But if you're doing hardcover, and I wanted hardcover, um, Ingram's kind of the way to go,
Hmm.
quality-wise. So
Very cool.
yeah, the other thing I'll say is sharing on LinkedIn also saved my butt. Because there was something in the book that I like totally didn't intend. So if I were to walk through the book super quickly,
Yeah.
um, I don't know if I see. I feel bad like doing it this way, because it's like you guys can't really. That's kind of crappy because my camera's crappy. I want to show Darren's work better.
Well, you can
Anyway,
you can flip the camera, or you were just talking about picture quality.
picture quality.
Gotcha.
I know. But basically, here's the quick summary. So Mabel goes out. She's a beautiful girl. I have mom and dad at the beginning. Parents are important to me, that family unit, right? So they're with her. She goes walking through the garden, and she comes across these other animals that are all ugly in their own right. So there's a mole, a shrew, a wren. Um, they all have their own opinions. They all nitpick. They all think that she should change colors to look like what they should think she looks like. They don't like her the way that she currently is, and so she goes and changes for each of them, or tries to, but finds it exhausting, because that's absolutely what it is, as we all know who have done that in life. And the
Hmm.
parents find her and they say, why do you have such a frown? You look drab and brown. And so part of that was in my, like, it's hard because on Ingram you have to, like, okay, what's your author? You have to come up with like a 100-word summary, and then you have to come up with a
Hmm.
40-word summary, and then you have to come up with a 20-word summary, and like, it's just kind of a lot to go through. And so I put that up on LinkedIn because I wanted to get some people's opinions of it. And somebody was like, there are a lot of brown children who will be reading your book. And I'm like, oh, like I shouldn't, like, brown is not a negative thing. I was thinking of the chameleon. I wasn't thinking of
Hmm.
people. I'm like, oh my goodness, because I knew there's another illustrator I'm friends with who's adopted children, and I just could see his children. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awful. So I changed it to pale and gray. And Darren knew, like, that was a last minute slide in before we submitted for publication. But I'm like so glad we did it, because somebody called me out and it was like totally legitimate.
Hmm.
So part of it is, there's always that question of, do you keep everything secret, or how much do you share, or whatever?
Hmm.
And that was just part of the summary, and somebody caught it. So I was like super grateful for that right before launch.
Yeah, I
But
bet.
do
Some
you
poor little
have,
brown kid somewhere would have been reading that and maybe been devastated.
oh, and I'd have been like mortified if
Yeah,
that
I
got,
know, man.
because it's, yeah, um, you never want to make that
No,
inference or impression or anything like
right,
that. It's
right,
totally
right,
not cool.
right.
But I can, I have a button to share my screen. Have you had somebody
You
do that?
can.
Does it turn out
Oh yeah,
okay, or does it turn out bad?
yeah. No, you can. Let me
All
pull
right.
this overlay off.
I'll show everybody. I'll give you the preview. This is also, I was telling Chris, this is the most recent copy of PDF I have. So if Darren gets angry at me, she might get angry with me because it has her notes in it. Has some notes. We'll see. I'm going to beg for permission later. I think I can do my screen. So let me know if you see this. You see that?
Yep. Yep.
So there's the front cover, and this was so cool. This was all Darren. So there's the little tail, Mabel's little tail. My wife found the font because my wife spends hours and hours and hours looking for fonts. And
Oh, that
then
drives me nuts, man. That's the worst.
fonts are the worst. So I outsourced
Oh,
that to my wife. And
very
then
good.
Darren got the cute little head at the bottom looking up. We've all kind of
Yeah.
fallen in love with Mabel. And now when my kids see like a stuffed chameleon or something, they go nuts. So this is, you can see behind the scenes. You feel like you're walking through Disney World now, walking through
Right.
the back tunnels of Disney World. So she helped me with all this setup. This was before she had put in the logo for publishing. We had a dedication page and all that stuff. And then, like, this just doesn't do it justice. But just the art, I thought, is incredible throughout the whole book. And I really couldn't have asked for. I mean, I wanted the kind of watercolor style, and she just nailed it. Like every little piece of it, so beautiful.
Hmm.
So this one's the old text version, but Mabel the chameleon, both beautiful and bright. Her mom and dad loved her so and told her every night. And then just boom, this was the first image she sent me with the flower, and the shrew, and just the realism in the shrew plus the flower. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah, it
so one day
is.
she went for a walk, as chameleons sometimes do, and walking past a rose bush, she happened upon a shrew. Just look at you, declared the shrew. You have such pointy toes. If you're going to have such ugly points, at least look like a rose. So even like this, the like splatter.
I like that.
Oh, I just thought it was gorgeous. And like the expression in the face and the sadness, like she just nailed it. And then it's consistent like with the rest of the pages. The mean words from the little shrew made poor sweet Mabel cry. She looked nothing like a rose, but now she thought she'd try. So the other thing that Darren did exceptionally well, I feel like I'm just selling Darren, but that's okay because that's what it's supposed to be, is like she thought about the transition. Like Mabel is green and then Mabel turns pink. So like there should be elements of the green left in the pink because it's a transition. She's changing color. Like things like that are artistic level that I don't possess.
Right.
Well, she started changing colors. She wanted to fit in, and suddenly soft pink appeared right where her green had been. So now, pleased with her pinkish self, she went up on her way, strolling slowly through the garden on that warm and sunny day. And again, like the splatter, like I really couldn't have asked for it. It's just gorgeous.
It is. It really is.
So when crossing a glen, she saw a wren who said, "My, aren't you lazy? If you're just going to be planted there, at least look like a daisy." So again, the foreshadowing of the daisy in the picture. Like, I love that she even put some of the pink up in the tree, which, like, I never, again, would have saw that coming. The pink she worked so hard to don now suddenly looked bland, and why she didn't love her pink she couldn't understand. We got the wren flying away, transition, and then I think this was one of my favorites. Like, isn't that the embodiment of trying to fit in?
Yeah.
Like, the awkwardness, but even, like, emulating the petals and the yellow face to be the yellow center of the daisy. Gorgeous. Nevertheless, poor Mabel focused in with all her might, and exactly where the pink had been now showed yellow and white. Everyone will love me now, said Mabel, feeling grand as she went on through the garden, treading slowly hand by hand. Then on her stroll, she saw a mole who said, "Don't you look silly. If you're going to have that floppy tongue, at least look like a lily." So again, we got the rule of threes. We got the three things. We got lilies in the background. It worked out perfectly because of the shape of the lily and the this one. No lie, I had to go ask my wife, like, what does one look like? But this is where she fussed and bothered, and with all her strength, she tried to become as deep a purple as the lilies by her side. So you can still see the mole. She's going to become a lily, and this is when things start falling apart. And then it's silly, Chris, when I tell you I start breaking up when I read this stuff because it means a lot to me. And so this is where parents up here to come. There will be parents. They're absentee in this video, but they will be there in the actual book if you buy one. But she found herself exhausted and had to lay to rest, and her worried parents found her there and brought her to her nest. So this is where originally she was drab and brown. She became a little more pale and blue. So originally it was, "Sweet Mabel, dear, what's happening? Why have you such a frown? I'm concerned, my dear, you don't look well. Your skin looks drab and brown. I just wanted to be beautiful for the mole, the wren, and shrew. I turned all the colors that they wanted, but now I just feel." So this is funny to me. I can show you these pictures in the actual book, but I'll read the rest of it, and then I'll tell you about this. I said, "Sweet Mabel, dear," said Mom and Dad as they held her close and tight. "They want you to turn the rainbow just because they aren't as bright. If you want to know who really loves you and who are your truest friends, they'll be the ones who never make you change yourself for them." So little Mabel hugged her parents, happy to be home, and turned the most beautiful color that the world has ever known. A more mean thing to do to an illustrator than to ask them to make something the most beautiful color the world has ever known. Like, is that a jerk move? That might be a jerk.
It is, man.
I'll show you really quick because I know it's low quality, but here are the parents. See, they made it. They showed up. They showed up after all. And then Darren put some nice touches in here about like the turn the rainbow part. You can see the mom has a little mohawk. So that was also pretty awesome. And then I love this little smiley face with the tongue out.
Yeah, that's cute.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
And then the last thing that I'll mention, which is cool, like it ended up on the cutting room floor. Thank you, Gerard, for that comment, by the way, that nobody can see. Originally, when Darren made it, she had like she turned the most beautiful color that the world had ever known, and she had the chameleon in pink, like making like a heart with her hands, which was really cute. And it was funny because I read it and I'm like, ooh, no, she's got to be her color. Like she has to be
Hmm.
green because that's what a chameleon is. Like that's the whole point. It's like the
Right.
beautiful color you ever is the color you started with. So we went through and edited it, and this is where my wife had the biggest say, and we probably spent and this is honestly where I stopped. Like Darren gave me an idea and I'm like, I need time to think about it. And then we had water damage and we had all this other stuff. And it was like right before the last page. So it was so cool when Darren like finally gave me, I don't know if you can see it, gave me the last page. It's wow.
Man.
Because it came together so well.
Yeah, it
So anyway,
really did.
the coolest part of the whole experience is I have people who have bought them. Some people I don't even know have bought them, and then they send me pictures of their kids reading it, and it's like, their thoughts and stuff. I think I have like 12. See, here's another. I have like 12 reviews on Amazon. I could go email all the people who bought one because I have all the email addresses. Say, can you please give me a review? And I just haven't done it yet. But the people who've left them, it's just cool and it's heartwarming to see, and that's what makes everything worth it.
Heck yeah, dude, that is an awesome story, an awesome process.
Chris, you need to start having kids.
You hush your mouth.
Tanya said it like it's just up to you.
Yeah, I know, right?
Just have one. What are you waiting for?
Just have one. Yeah, I know.
Oh, man.
No, negative. It's just so cool. Like you can hear the passion in your voice and just how much it means to you. It's cool. It's a cool story, and I love it. And I'm glad we finally. Thank you, Darren. Glad we finally got to have this conversation.
Yeah, me too. I'm grateful that you had me. It was. I think Casey and I are going to do a follow-up. He's talked to me about it, so we're gonna get together and do it, and more on like the logistics, what we've messed up, what we've learned. If you want to write a book, I had other people who came in and supported me when I wrote it, which again was just phenomenal. The support of the community was awesome. But yeah,
Did Casey write a children's book too?
Yeah, so he wrote one called The Boy with Horns. His was he said his kids always want him to make up a story, and he kind of made one up on the spot, and then as he was telling it, he like evolved it a little bit and all that stuff. And so it ended up being what it was. But he did a bunch of good stuff, like crowdsourcing stuff, like how should the horns be shaped, because he had like 4 different horn designs and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like he did a good job, but he's made mistakes, I've made mistakes, and then we've all learned things. My biggest lesson is just hire Darren, but he has other lessons too. So we thought if it'd be helpful for people who are looking to write their first book, sometimes it's almost worse when you're like a super experienced author because so much and it's overwhelming to someone who's just starting. But just on silly things like how to get an ISBN, if you want to sell your book and things like that, it seems very hard, but it's not. You just have to know how to do it.
Right.
And again, I couldn't have done any of it. It would all be a Google document if it wasn't for the support of so many people on LinkedIn and Darren. So that's where I've been super grateful. And the other thing is I made a point to, I've done a couple giveaways where I've focused on single fathers with daughters, because I feel like it's an important message. It's an important message for parents to give their kids, but I just have a soft heart, I guess, for single fathers with daughters. And so we've done a couple of those and stuff too.
That is amazing.
Which is cool. But yeah, the opportunity to bless other people is really what's been the most fun part about it.
I bet. I can see that 100% for sure. You and Casey should do like a short video series on that. Like have a whole conversation about it on Zoom. You could do it all at once and then chop it up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That would be cool.
Yeah, I think we need to,
or you can just live stream it, man.
Yeah. Hey, we'll call you back. We'll do a big live stream and we'll chop it up in bits and I think we need to do it soon too before it's been too long. Because once it gets too long, you can't remember what the heck you did. But
yeah.
Anyway. So I think Darren has a couple subsequent books coming out for a few other people. So it's like when those come out, I'll be talking about those. Can't wait to get my hands on them because again, that art is incredible. I just can't tell. I mean, I really loved just seeing the first copies of print when like your store, because especially somebody like us, right, who lack artistic ability, just to write something and have someone turn around and be like, "Hi, meet the person that you wrote about." You're like, you know, like there's just there isn't a feeling like that. I know.
Yeah, I bet.
I know. Like, she's alive. Anyway, it's been so cool.
Yeah, you can tell it really was a labor of love too, and I love that. Like it's
Yeah,
cool.
well, that's what kills me when Gerard was saying everyone asks as soon as you write a book, they ask when's the sequel. I'm like, I know, but like that's what's made a sequel so hard. It's like if it was
Yeah.
like me trying to just write something because I thought I was good at making something rhyme or something. I don't know. If there wasn't meaning behind it, a sequel would be a lot easier. You know, if I
Yeah,
was
no,
John
I get
Grisham
that.
and just writing a action murder novel or whatever, then you know, that's pretty rote, I guess.
Yeah.
He'd probably be offended. John Grisham, if you're listening, I apologize. But yeah,
Yeah,
I
drop a
can't
comment
just.
if you are, John.
I know. If you're here, you can let me know. You can also pick up a copy of my book. No, just kidding.
Yes.
I'd appreciate your review. No, but if there wasn't meaning behind it, then yeah, I could write 10 of them. But
Sure.
it was harder. Yeah, it was hard to write, actually, as silly as it sounds, because it's a kid's book and it's about animals, but it was hard for me to write without like getting emotional about it. And then it's also still hard for me to read without just thinking of, you know, the deeper meaning and all that. And the joke
Yeah.
that I'm always told everybody is when that daughter brings home a guy, like, I own a shotgun, I got woods, like,
Right.
he better be, it's not going to be a good day. So then I'll write my murder mystery. Then I'll write my John Grisham murder mystery.
It's funny you said that. I got a buddy that he works in the oil field. He works 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off. And on his 2 weeks home, he works on a ranch out here. He sent me a picture today. There was a sinkhole that he didn't see. He just ran over it and sunk the tractor, but it goes like way underground. He sent me a picture. And I was like, bro, you could hide a body there. Because he's got a teenage daughter. I think she just turned 15. And I was like, you don't forget where that spot is because you could hide a body there.
Yeah. I think we need to have another talk about men with daughters and I have a few people in my family who their daughters are dating and they're like pretty hands off. And I'm like, no, man, like this is your job. Like you need to meet the person, meet the family, make yourself known. You know, it's really important. But I do want to answer that. I haven't. This is really funny, but I haven't necessarily broadcast to all the other kids that it's about one of them in particular. So, Andrew, to your comment of, do my other kids wish they'd write books about them? They know that it's really about all of them. The inspiration was one of them. But yeah, this is where we talked about. I probably should at some point, or think about, or do something, or maybe a collective book or something. But it's one of those where if I'm not, I get paid to write, you know. So but at that point, writing can kind of lose the emotion in it. So it's like I need it to be a passion project, and I'm sure I'll get there with the other kids. It's just I don't want to like force one just to force one, you know.
No, 100%. You'll be in the shower one day and it'll hit you and boom, it'll be done.
That's seriously, like, not kidding. Even on the copywriting stuff and working on people's websites and stuff, I'll just hit a point where like I need to stop and I'll go to bed. I'll wake up in the morning, I'll get in the shower and be like, oh. So I've thought about keeping like dry erase markers in there so you can like just write it on the wall real quick. So you don't like lose your train of thought.
Yes.
But it is. Ariel Lee asked me before to look into like how that happens. And so there's alpha waves and beta waves, like your brain waves. They measure different waves in people. And when you take like a hot shower or sit on a beach and relax or whatever, you get this type of wave that naturally makes you more creative. So that's the thought behind binaural beats and things. I used to look into all this because I almost had an acoustics minor. I loved physics. I have an electrical engineering degree, but you put noise canceling headphones on, you play one noise in one ear and one noise in the other ear, and they don't quite line up. And the whole theory is it's supposed to like change your actual brain waves because your brain is trying to make sense of the two different things. I don't know if that works, but a shower, low tech, gets me every time.
Heck yeah, I love it. Well, we are at time. If anybody, I'm going to talk for a minute, talk about next week. If y'all have any questions for James, put them in the chat. Next week, I'll be back with Ending the Stigma. I'm going to do it for a few more months before I bring So I Did a Thing back. I'm really having fun doing it. I'm having some great conversations, and I'm trying to find my calendar. There it is. I don't know how I can forget. I have the Withers family next week. So this is pretty cool. I've never had a family on. It's a mom and a dad. They're pastors, or he's a pastor. Kids grew up in church, grew up, as pastors' kids, went totally left when they got out of the house. All had issues with drugs. I think there was 3 of them. A story not unlike my own. I wasn't a pastor's kid, but I grew up in a really strong, really stable Christian household. They went out there, started doing drugs. It caused the Withers family, the parents, to see a real need in how rehabs, for a good rehab, a good faith-based rehab that talks about the power of God helping you get over it instead of, what other rehabs do. I've never been to rehab, but I know that with the power of God, it's the only way you're going to kick that addiction, because it's the only way that I kicked it. So the whole family is going to be on next week to tell the story. And I'm super excited to hear about that, hear about their testimony, and hear about what God did in their life. So I'm stoked for that one. Anyway, that's who's next week at 7:00.
It's awesome.
Yeah, man. All right. No more questions popped up. James, thank you so much for being here, man. I appreciate it. This was a blast. I enjoyed getting this little inside view into this labor of love, and it's just how passionate you are about it. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Hey, I thought really quick before we bounce.
Yep. Go ahead.
I had the idea, but I forgot to say it earlier. I felt like doing a giveaway. If somebody enjoyed this and they post about our chat that we had and about the book, then I will ship them. I was gonna say I'll pick a winner, but if there's less than 5, I'll just straight up ship them to you all. But
Okay.
I
love that.
If somebody posts about this and enjoyed it and the story and stuff, it would be awesome. If you don't, that's fine. But like
if
I said,
if you do, be sure and tag James so he sees it.
Yeah, make sure I know. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
but then yeah, I'll send you off a copy, because my goal is to get them out there. And
yeah,
so
that's awesome. I love that. Heck yeah. All right, y'all. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with us. We will see y'all next week.